Okay, good evening, everyone, and we are starting again with another shir in the Torah and the Chizuk, trying to glean words of inspiration from the weekly Torah portion. And this is Parshas Vayishlach. There's a lot in these parshas. It's always very difficult when there's a lot to speak about, to know exactly what is the message that we should focus on, but I want to focus on something that is very pertinent to what is going on in the world today. We have in this week's parsha the very famous showdown between Yaakov and Esav. They haven't seen each other in 20 years. The last time that they saw one another, Esav was chasing after Yaakov to kill him. So Yaakov prepares himself with tefillah, with prayers, and ready for war and battle. He has gifts that he's going to give him. And when Esav comes his way, he begins bowing down to him, one bow after the other, to show his great, we'll call it respect, but his humility that he has before his brother Esav, trying to really get on the best side that he possibly can. The pasuk says the famous words, "V'yaretz Esav likrasai." Esav ran to greet Yaakov Avinu, v'yachabkehu, and he embraced him, v'yipol al tzavarav, and he fell on his neck, v'yishakehu, and he kissed him, v'yivku, and he cried. V'yivku, and they cried. So the pasuk tells us that suddenly Esav, the man of steel, the man of grit, the man that hates his brother so much so that he's been dreaming about killing him for the last 20 years, suddenly when he sees his brother Yaakov, so he runs. We don't know exactly what his intention was when he was running, but the moment that he gets close to him, he embraces him, he hugs him, he falls on his neck, he begins to kiss him, vayivku, and they cry together on each other's necks. Rashi says over here, vayichabkehu. What does it mean that he hugged him? Nizgangulu rachamav. His mercy upon his brother Yaakov was welled up. It expressed itself. Keshirao mishtachava al kol mishtachava salalu. When he saw that Yaakov kept bowing down to him again and again and again, and he was being so nice and so subservient to him, his mercy suddenly was thinking, wow, maybe my brother's not such a bad guy after all. Maybe Yaakov Avinu, the one who stole my birthright, stole my brachas, now when he got married, he has all these wives and all these children. Maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. Suddenly he is overwhelmed with mercy. Vayishakehu, and he kisses him. And anyone that would like to look inside, we're in chapter Lamed Gimel 33, and it's pasuk Daled number 4. And if you look at that word Vayishakehu, you'll see one dot on top of every single letter in the words. So that's an unusual thing. Sometimes there's one dot, there's two dots, but over here on this word Vayishakehu, on the word and he kissed him, there's a dot over every single letter. Says Rashi, Nakud alav, there's dots on top of the letters. V'yesh cholkim b'davar hazeh. And there is an argument amongst I believe it will be the Amoraim, amongst those that wrote the Sifri, about what exactly these words and this word means. There are those who say that these dots are coming to teach us. It says, Vayishakehu, that he kissed his brother Yaakov. Okay, he kissed him, but it wasn't with a whole heart. Esav, at the end of the day, he really hates Yaakov Avinu. There's a moment over here that he's Vayishakehu, that he's overwhelmed with mercy, and he decides to kiss him, but it wasn't b'kol libo, it wasn't with all of his heart. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, famous words of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Halacha hi. It is a halacha. It's a law. B'yedua, and it's known. She'esav soine liYaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. Halacha. It's a law. Just like when you're in the kitchen on Shabbos, on Shabbat, and you're not allowed to turn on the fire to cook your food, that's a halacha. Just like when you woke up this morning and you said, Moda'ani lefanecha, that's a halacha. Just like you shop at the market where there's kosher food because there's ways that an animal has to be slaughtered and salted and get rid of all the blood and check it to make sure that it's fine and then you can eat it. That's a halacha. And we don't question that. That's halacha. So too says Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, halacha it is a halacha, b'yedua we know, she'esav seinen leYaakov. Esav always hates Yaakov Avinu. Even though there's a moment, one moment in 20 years that he sees his brother Yaakov after all of this, and he sees him bowing down to him, and he sees the treasures that he's sending his way, all the gifts. He sees the beautiful little children, Yaakov Avinu, all of his children, his beautiful wives, he sees it all. And he's nisoira, he's aroused to mercy. And he kisses his brother, but when he kissed him, it wasn't with a whole heart. Because deep down at the core of Esav, he hates his brother Yaakov. Rather, at that moment, some mercy overwhelmed him. He felt compassion on his brother. But at that moment, Chazal, the other side of the coin, says he kissed him with all of his heart. Every other time that Esav hates Yaakov, he always hates Yaakov. And therefore, the first opinion is, when he kissed him, it wasn't with his whole heart. The other opinion is, no. At this moment in history, there was so much compassion, there was so much mercy, there was so much love that Esav felt for his brother, he actually kissed him with all of his heart. But that's the only time in history. Because halacha, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, halacha biyadua, it's known that Esav hates Yaakov. He's never going to love him. He's never going to care about him. He's never going to watch out for him. He hates him. He's someone that hates his brother Yaakov Avinu. I remember many years ago, a cousin of mine was being bar mitzvahed in one of the local Reform synagogues. And I had a big shaila, a big question whether or not I should go to this bar mitzvah or not. And lo and behold, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky came to visit Ner Yisrael, and my Rebbe, who was his son-in-law, said, ask my father-in-law what he says. I'd like to hear what he has to say. So I asked Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, could I go to the bar mitzvah? And he told me I could go, and I should go in the way that I went, and he told me what to do, and I could go. Certain halach is the way that you're going to behave in a Reformed synagogue. You're not going to participate, you're not going to daven, you're not going to open the siddur, but you could go for the family, Kiddush Hashem, you can go. It was Parshas Vayishlach. I can never forget this, because I can never forget the drasha of the bar mitzvah boy. And the bar mitzvah boy gets up, this was after they blew the shofar, and it was already after Shabbos already, but this was the way that it worked. And he stands up and he begins to give his drasha. He says there are spotlights on the word Vayishakehu, and he kissed Yaakov. And there are those sages that say that he did not kiss him with all of his heart. And there are those sages that say that he was so overwhelmed with mercy and compassion that he kissed him with all of his heart. I would like to believe, said the bar mitzvah boy, that when Esav saw his brother Yaakov for that first time after 20 years, it truly was a hug and a kiss with all of his heart. And therefore, this is bar mitzvah boy giving over his drasha as a young man. In my life, I would like to be more like Esav. And that was the great hope and dream of the bar mitzvah boy. Chazal are telling us, even if it's true at this moment in his life, that he was overwhelmed with mercy and with great love and compassion, and he saw his brother and he couldn't control himself, he runs and he hugs and he kisses him, even if it's true, b'kol libo, with all of his heart. Nevertheless, halacha yedua she'esav sanias Yaakov. That was a one-time moment. That was once in history. You'll never see it again, because there is an inbred hatred, as Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is saying, that Esav has for his brother Yaakov Avinu. Now the Midrash goes on a little bit more and says some other ideas that you might be familiar with. And the Midrash says the following: really, when Esav was coming to Yaakov Avinu, he had a plan. His plan was to chomp down into the neck and bite the neck of Yaakov Avinu. However, v'nasei tzavaro shel Yaakov k'mo even hashayish, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle. and he made the neck of Yaakov Avinu become hard as stone marble. V'nigrasu shinav shel Esav, and Esav bit down on the neck, and he broke all of his teeth. V'kol echad bachal al ke'ev sheke'ev, and each one was crying. That's why he says vayivku, they were crying together. Yaakov b'tzavara, I guess it doesn't feel so comfortable when your neck turns into marble. The Esav b'shinav, and Esav was crying about his teeth, that all of his teeth got broken at that moment. And therefore says the Midrash, don't think for a moment that Esav was coming with love in his heart. He was coming with the plan to bite Yaakov in the neck and to kill him. And that's what it says further in the Midrash. The Midrash says like this. Esav didn't come to kiss him, rather to bite him. Amar Beliba, he said to himself, I'm not going to kill Yaakov with a sword. I'm not going to be so kind. That would be too easy. Kill somebody with a sword, you can chop off their head in one shot. Ela b'shina, I'm going to use my teeth to kill my brother Yaakov. V'am tzayitz le'damav, and I'll suck the blood right out of his neck. I guess this is the first vampire in history. This is what he wanted to be. And as we know what happened, so Yaakov Avinu's neck turned into stone, and as he's going to bite into the neck and the flesh of Yaakov Avinu, his teeth end up getting broken, they fall out, and that's the end. But however you look at it, Rashi is telling us a very strong message. And that message is that no matter how they're going to behave, and how Esav will act towards us, and even if they will show love, please leave the door unlocked. Leave the door unlocked. And if they will show their love, it's temporary. Because when there's such a hatred that is seething and that is burning under the surface, it will never ever leave. Now there's a question we have on this Chazal, on these words of Chazal. It's an unusual language that they're using. And that's what Shimon Bar Yochai is saying over here, that Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, halachahi. It's a halacha. This is not halacha, this is called agadata. Agadata is esoteric statements of our sages that are teaching us some philosophical idea. So, example, when Chazal come along and they say that when the Jewish people were standing by Har Sinai, by Mount Sinai, receiving the Torah, there was such achdus, there was such unity. They were ki'ish echad b'lev echad, they were like one man with one heart. That's not a halacha. That's not a law. That is agadata. That's esoteric statements of our sages. When Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is coming along and he's telling us, I want you to know the way that it works in this world. Esav will always hate Yaakov Avinu. That's not a halacha. That's not a law. That is agadata. That is esoteric, philosophical statements that the Chazal, that the sages are giving us an insight into the way that this world runs. So why is Rav Shimon Bar Yochai calling it halacha? Why is he calling it a law? So Rav Shlomo Wolbe writes on his commentary on this verse over here the following. And he says, Yedua b'Shem Rabbi Avram Grzinski, one of the great Rosh Yeshivas from previous generations, he says there's one of the great Rishonim, one of the great commentators on the Gemara, is someone by the name of the Rif, Rabbeinu Alfasi. Now the Rif, his job was, he only extracts the halacha out of the Gemara, and he rewrites the Gemara, only the halachic ramifications of every sugi, of every part of Shas of the Gemara. So you might have a Gemara that's, let's say, 10 pages. There's really only 14 lines of the 10 pages that are the final product of what the halacha is going to be. So the Rif will write down 14 lines that will teach you what the halacha is. He wipes out the other 10 pages. So therefore you could learn Masechta Bava Kama, 40 pages, as we'll see by the end of the day. According to the Rif, it's going to be about 35 pages. Because he's pulling out the halacha. But when the Rif writes down his version of the Gemara, with all the halachot, with all the laws that are there, surprisingly, the Rif brings down stories from the Agadah. He brings down the esoteric statements. He brings down the ideas of Chazal, of our sages, that give us spiritual insights into the world that we're talking about. If your goal is to write the halacha, so then why are you writing down these spiritual insights? And we find the same thing by the Rambam. The Rambam wrote something called Hilchos Deos, which are the laws of Deot, the laws of, I don't know if it's a good word for Dea in English, but the laws of your way in this world, your way in life. So if you read the laws of Deot, you'll see that almost everything that's in there, according to the Rambam, it's all musar. It's all advice, how to be a better person, how to improve your midot, how to elevate yourself. That's what it all says. So why is the Rambam putting that into his halachic sefer, his halachic work? Says Ravo with the following idea. Ela emesi, the truth of the matter is, shemusar v'agarata halacha isheim. Musar, which means self-correction. And agadata, which means the esoteric insights of our sages, they're all halachot, they're all the law as well. Why? Anutoyim bekach, we make a mistake. Shanu miyachesim es kol hamitzvah shebelev umidos lemusar. We think that everything that's going on in our heart, all of the ways that we're going to improve ourselves, it's all called musar, which is ethical teachings. However, the truth is, musar is also halacha. To become about, even the truth is matter. In the beginning of the beginning of the Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim brings down in the very beginning a halacha that every single person should learn musar every day, because that's the only way that we can fight and combat our Yetzer Hara. So even the Chafetz Chaim understood musar is halacha, it's a law, and therefore he's saying the same idea. Whatever insights that we have, whatever musar, whatever ethical teachings that we have, whatever esoteric ideas that we have that will shape and form the vision of what Klal Yisrael is all about, you should know that's not just a cute statement of our sages, not just a nice idea that they're bringing down. Rather, it is halachi, it is a halachi, it is a law that is set in stone. This is the way that it's going to be. And therefore, says Rashi, quoting Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who's quoting our midrash over here, you have to know that as much as Esav was filled with kindness and mercy and love at this moment, you have to know that as the generations will go and they will go and they will go, you will probably not find another moment like this in history, but rather the halacha, the law is that Esav, Soines Yaakov, he hates us. Now this sounds pretty bad. That means that if you look out at the world, so that means that most of the world, I don't know, we'll call most of the world Esav, but we'll see in the words of Rav Moshe Feinstein what exactly that means. But the world at large, underneath the surface, does not have much of a love for the Jewish people. I don't know if anybody's seen any of that recently in the world. If a person is looking at the news, if they're listening to the chants on the streets, if they're watching, I was in the Smart & Final today, and I'm doing my shopping, minding my business, and an old lady walks over to me and she says, "I can't even listen to the news anymore." I said, "Oh, you must be part of my shul." So she said, "I can't even listen." I said, "You're smart, miss. I don't listen to the news either." So as I'm talking to this old Jewish lady in the middle of the aisle over there, not a religious woman. So I said to her, "Miss, don't worry. He's watching over us." She says, "Oh, please." Now at that moment there was another lady who was walking with her cart, and she looked more Muslim than she did Jewish. And when she saw me raise my hands to heaven and say that he's watching over us, don't have to worry about it, she gives me a look like this, and I realize this is the Esav that's Soines Yaakov. Wherever you're going to go in this world, wherever you're going to be, there are going to be, unfortunately, there are going to be those people that are not happy with us, that don't love us. But you have to know, we spoke about this, I believe, last year. The fact that Esav does not like Yaakov Avinu is part of the inbred chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done with this world. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want us to get too close to Esav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to be best friends with the Esavs of this world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to remember who we are as Klal Yisrael, and we should remain unique and special and one, the Am HaNivchar, the chosen people, and not allow ourselves to get too close to the Esavs of this world. The Brisker Rav says that itself is the chesed of anti-Semitism. That when a Jew begins getting too close to the world of Esav, to the non-Jewish world, what ends up happening? Even though that we would think the opposite would take place, they should embrace us, they should love us, they should welcome us. We're pretty smart, we're pretty successful, we're pretty savvy, we can help their businesses, we can help them make money, we'll make the world a better place. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu put inside the system of a non-Jew, of an Esav, that when the Jews start getting too close, they react. It triggers something inside of them. The trigger is, stay away. The trigger is, we don't like you. The trigger is, we'd rather support Palestinian murderers than support and defend the Jewish people that are minding their own business on a Saturday afternoon in the land of Israel. We would rather see you go and burn in the infernos of Auschwitz and then try to cover it all up than for the sake of humanity and mankind rescue you and save you. What was the name of the boat that they didn't let into America? The St. Louis, what was it called? Anyway, there was a boat during the time of the Holocaust that was carrying the survivors, were carrying the people that were escaping from Europe. And their last chance to escape was a boat that left the ports of Europe and was coming to America. And America turned the boat away. There's people that are going to go back to Europe and be gassed in the chambers. They turned the boat away. And they did not let it dock. In America, it's too bad Biden wasn't the president. Yeah, they could have come across the wall if that would have been the case. But at that time, it was a long time ago, so it didn't work. So at that time, it was Franklin FDR, who was a rabid anti-Semite, as is brought down in history, and he turned the boat away. And the Jewish people had to sail all the way back to Europe, and they were taken off the boat, put into cattle cars, schlepped off to the gas chambers, and that was the end of them. Says the Torah, it's a halacha. Halacha doesn't really change. That's what we find in history. Halacha, Shabbos is Shabbos. Kashrus is kashrus. Davening is davening. Tefillin, the same tefillin that you're wearing. Rashi wore those tefillin 1,000 years ago. The same way that you keep the holy Shabbos, your ancestors and the ones before that for 1,000 years have been keeping Shabbos. Moshe Rabbeinu, he kept Shabbos and kashrus the same way that you do. And he shook a lulav and an esrog the same way that you do. Because halacha, it doesn't change. It can bend, so to speak, in the generations. There was no electricity at the time that the Torah was given. So what do we do with electricity on Shabbos? We take the chachamim of our generation. They understand what electricity is, and they'll apply it now to the halacha. But halacha doesn't change. And the halacha is over here, it does not change. It goes on forever and ever and ever. But as the Brisker Rav says, that's chesed from Hashem. Because it allows the Jewish people to remind ourselves, we are the Jewish people. We are not like Esav. We're not like Ishmael. We're not like Amalek. We're not like everybody else that's Edom. We're not like everyone else out there. We are special because we are Jews. There's some story that is going around of a young college boy that came to maybe it was the Chabad house or the Hillel house on a Friday night, and the kid has no connection at all to anything Jewish. And he walks in and they said, "Can we help you?" And he said, "Yes, you can." He said, "After everything I saw going on the campuses, all the people that I thought were my friends, I realized they're not my friends. I imagine they're over here in the Hillel house, in the Chabad house. I imagine this is where I'm going to find my friends." And so the Jews that are off the charts right now, meaning off the charts from Judaism, from mitzvahs, from observance, far away, what are people beginning to realize, which is a chesed of Hashem? They're beginning to realize that to be a Jew is one thing, to be assimilated means something else. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu does these very special acts of anti-Semitism to remind us who we are. That's chesed. And so instead of getting angry and combating anti-Semitism with all of our might and pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into the fight against anti-Semitism, you can't fight anti-Semitism. It is halacha. It is a law, inescapable, inexplicable law that the Torah is going to give us. The only thing that we could do is, how are we going to respond? Yaakov Avinu, his neck turned into stone. How he would not let Esav come and kiss his neck. It turned into stone, into marble, a miracle. We have to be very tough during these times. We have to be very strong during these times. We have to make sure that we are proud and we are courageous and we are brave to do what we have to do as Klal Yisrael, to cling to the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a famous story. I'm sure that I told it over in the years past. But when Rav Hutner Zatzal was a bacher in the Slobodka Yeshiva, it was already at that time in the 1930s when Germany was beginning to pick up pace. And everybody knew that the Germans were very unusual kind of a people. They were very classy, they were very cultured, they were very elite, very intellectual. But there was something fishy that was going on. And Rav Hutner and one of the other boys in the yeshiva got into a very big argument, a debate one day. And Rav Hutner was saying that you don't understand, even if they're cultured and even if they're kind, the Germans, they were very, they had a tremendous etiquette in the way that they would speak. If you'd ask a German for directions, he would say, you go to the right and to the left. Is that good for you? And then you want to ask them, where can I get a bite to eat? Yeah, you can go down the street over here. There's a restaurant on there. Is that good for you? And they would always ask you, is that good for you? Is that good for you? They were so nice. They were so respectful. They were so honorable in the way that they spoke. So Rav Hutner and this young man were getting in an argument. And Rav Hutner was telling him, you should know, just because they're nice, and just because they have etiquette, and just because they say these kind words and they seem to be respectful, I wouldn't trust them. I really would not trust them. You never know what's up their sleeve. And the other guy said, no, you don't understand. You see how kind and respectful they are, how nice they are, how they treat us, how warm they are. You have nothing to worry about. And they were going back and forth, and they left it at a draw. Rav Hutner held his ground very strong. No, these people you can't trust. And the other guy, let's call him Yankel, said, no, you can trust them. They're honest, they're sincere, they're refined, cultured people, nothing to worry about. That was in the 1930s. In the 1940s, as we know, World War II breaks out. The Holocaust comes. The Holocaust goes. 6 million Jews are killed by the refined and the cultured, intellectual Germans. Rav Hutner, before the war, had already left for America. And maybe about 10 years or so after the war, he's already a Rosh Hashiva in Chaim, Berlin. And he's sitting in his Beis Midrash, and one day a man walks into that Beis Midrash. It was many years after World War II. And an older man walks into the Beis Midrash. And he walks over to Rav Hutner and he says, Yitzchak, do you remember me? And he says, I don't remember you. He says, look in my face, do you remember me? He says, I don't remember you. He says, you remember years ago, before World War II, you and I were debating in the Beis Midrash over there if the Germans are good, if they're not good, and you held very strong that you can't trust them even though they're cultured, even though they're refined, even though they're elite and they have etiquette. You said you can't trust them. And I was telling you, yes, you can trust them. Do you remember that? And he said, oh, I do, I remember that. So he said, I want to tell you something. When the Germans caught me, they decided that instead of throwing me into the gas chambers and killing me outright, they were just going to cut off my hand. And the German pulls out his knife and he begins sawing into my arm to cut off my hand. And as he's cutting off my hand, he keeps asking me, and is that good for you? And he cuts a little bit more and he says, and is that good for you? Until he cut off my entire hand. And the man pulls his hand out from behind his shirt, his back, and he has a metal claw on his hand because the Germans, Yimach Shemam, they cut it off. He said, you were right, and I was wrong. And I had to learn the hard way. Says Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon Bar Yochai, by the way, is the author of the Zohar. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is the one who went with his son and spent 13 years in a cave hiding from the Romans. He understood what it means. That Esav hates Yaakov. They wanted to kill him for one thing that he said. So he hid out for 13 years in a cave, learning Torah day and night with Hashem made a miracle. A carob tree and a little stream came along just to feed him for 13 years. So Shimon Bar Yochai says, halacha means it doesn't change. Shabbat, Shabbos has not changed. Sukkot has not changed. Hanukkah did not change. Maybe now you get these colored lights to light your menorah, okay, but that's all that changed. The latkes are the same latkes, the menorah is the same menorah, the oil is the same oil, everything is the same. Halacha doesn't change. And halacha is from the language of halicha, which means to go, to move, to walk, to travel. Halacha is what allows us to walk and maneuver and travel in this world. If you know this is halach, if you know that this is the law, that Esav Soines Yaakov, you'll be a much wiser person. How it is we're going to relate to the people here in this world. And we're going to begin to realize how Kadosh Baruch Hu made it that way. He programmed inside the psyche of Esav. No matter how much mercy you're going to have on a Jew, no matter how much that one moment, if it's true, like the other side of the coin says, that he actually kissed him with all of his heart, one time in history. The rest of the time, if you get too close, if you anger them, if you get them upset, if you step on take away their business, and you take away their women, and you take away their grandeur and their glory, Esav, Seine Es Yaakov. Rav Moshe Feinstein, who was the great halachic authority of the previous generation, whose halachic renderings we live upon to this very day. He speaks about this idea that it is a halacha, that it is something that is a law. And he says like this, Kitzarech Leida, we have to know, She'asina liYisrael mikol ha'umais, he extends Esav to all of the nations of the world. She'asina liYisrael mikol ha'umais, that the hatred that there is for the Jewish people from all of the nations, he gedoyla, is very great. Gam mimalchias shenoigim b'toiva, even if you find a nation that seems to be so nice and so kind and so loving to us. I can't imagine what nation he was talking about. But just he was living in America. And America is the country that has been so loving and so kind and so warm and so giving. We have been able to live a life of spiritual, religious freedom for decades and decades and decades in this country. And therefore we have a lot of gratitude, and we are indebted to America for everything that is done for us on our behalf. I mean, if you go to the city of Lakewood, and you will see how much building is going on there all of the time. There are apartments, and there are homes, and there are schools, and there are shuls, and there are kollels, and there are massive buildings where they're going to make weddings and the like. And it's everywhere that you turn. That means that the state of New Jersey continues to give carte blanche the Jewish community. They can go and do whatever they want. They're taking over the entire city. That's one place. Even here in Los Angeles, how much Torah there is, how much building there is, how much schools there are, how many people there are. And New York and Baltimore, everywhere you go, it's exploding. So they've been very kind to us, very loving to us, very endearing, with so much goodness that we are smothered by. However, Kvar Amarti ala lashon shevi Rashi beferish Chumash, says Rav Moshe Feinstein, but I've already explained That which it says according to Rashi in this week's Parsha, Al Kra de V'Yishakeu, on this word of V'Yishakeu that Esav kissed Yaakov Avinu, Amar Hashem Yoichai, Halachi b'Yedua she'Esav Saineh. It's halacha that Esav hates Yaakov. Du k'moshe halacha loy bishtanis. This is Moshe Feinstein talking, not me. K'moshe halacha loy bishtanis, just like halacha never changes. Kach sinas Esav liYaakov loy shaina. So too the hatred that Esav has for Yaakov is not going to change. Soine liYaakov de malshayich zula halacha mishtanis diav elu shenoigos bofen toiv sinosin gadola be'etzem. And therefore you have to know, even those that are so kind and loving and everything, Rav Moshe was very strong over here, you should know that really underneath the surface there's a great hatred that they have for the Jewish people. And if we look around the world, and we look not far from where we are, and we see what is going on. They just had some heart with, Gaza in the middle on one of the walls over here of a building right down the street. Love Gaza? Yeah. It's all over the world. It's all over the place. Again, this is not a political shiur, so we're not going to get political. We're just trying to prove a point. The point is that we are not a nation that is beloved in the eyes of the other nations. We are a nation that, according to the Torah, according to Chazal, is a nation that is despised and hated by the other nations. And they are looking, as we see, to undermine and to this. Now I just saw today that they're already the October 7th deniers. Yeah, they're just like there are people that deny that the Holocaust ever happened. The Nazis were very good. They were very good about trying to cover up all of the atrocities that they did. But Hamas made a big mistake. They actually recorded all of their atrocities. So what are you going to say when you have a selfie that was made by a Hamas terrorist of him actually killing somebody? What do you say there? And he's smiling on his face. What is that, AI? What is that, GPT chat? How do you explain that away? But there are already people in the world that are saying, never happened. Didn't happen. Jewish people are making it up. They staged the whole thing. It really wasn't. That's the way that it works. Now, just a few ideas, and that's what we're trying to understand from over here. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Anti-Semitism is a good thing because it keeps us who we are. And that's why you're seeing throughout the world right now, throughout Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, you are seeing a resurgence of mitzvahs, a resurgence of achdus, of unity, a resurgence of emunah, of people who never talked about Hashem in their life, talking about the Ribono Shel Olam, women who never lit candles, lighting candles, men that never put on tefillin before, putting on tefillin not just once, but every single day. People that were never willing to keep a Shabbos, willing now to keep a Shabbos. People that were struggling with kashrus realized, it's really not so hard to keep kosher. There's plenty of restaurants, there's plenty of stores. Anywhere you go, you can find something with a hechsher on it. Why is that happening? Because when you realize that the only place that we can turn to is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and our nation and our people, so that it infuses us, it elevates us, it brings us closer to such a place that we want to be with Hashem. There's a beautiful Maisa, a story that's going around right now about two girls that grew up together, I believe in Lakewood, New Jersey. One we'll call her Rachel, and the other one is Leah. And they were best of friends throughout elementary school, high school. Somewhere around the end of high school, Leah started running into some spiritual problems, and she began to do what's called going off the derech. She left the ways of Yiddishkeit. But her friend Rachel decided, I'm not leaving you. We've been friends all these years. I'll continue to be your friend. And she would call her, and she would go and spend time with her, try to be nice to her all the time. And as the time went on, it was really, really bothering Rachel. She couldn't believe how far Leah had strayed from Judaism. First it starts not keeping kosher, then she stops keeping Shabbos, then she's not keeping Yom Tov, she's not keeping anything. And Rachel was very, very bothered. hurt her to see her friend in such a state. So she starts telling her friend, listen, Leah, why don't you come to my house for Shabbos once? What's one Shabbos going to hurt you? Come to my house for one Shabbos. She told her, you don't understand. I don't keep Shabbos anymore. And I'm certainly not going to come to your house and be locked up in prison for 24 hours. I'm not coming. But she keeps bothering her. After like weeks and months like this, she sees she's not getting anywhere. She says, you know what, Leah, you know that Yom Kippur is coming very soon. Yom Kippur this year. Yom Kippur is coming very soon. Why don't you just keep Yom Kippur? She says, you don't get it, she says. I don't keep mitzvahs anymore. I'm not religious. I'm not keeping Yom Kippur. She says, come on, what do you have to lose? Just keep Yom Kippur. All you have to do is not eat. You know what? You don't even have to go to shul. You don't have to daven. You can stay in your bed all day long and sleep all day. Just keep Yom Kippur. And she's bothering her every week. They talk every week. Finally, Leah breaks under the pressure. She says, fine, I'll keep Yom Kippur. I'll keep Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur comes, and Leah decides, okay, I'm not eating, I'm fasting, and I'm not going to be Mechal Yom Kippur. I'm not going to desecrate the day. And no phone, no TV, no cars, no nothing. I'm not going to shul. That for sure I'm not going to do. I'll stay home. I'll read. I'll sleep. And that's what I'm going to do. Yom Kippur starts about what, 6:30? Something like that. Around 6:45, after she already accepts the holiday of Yom Kippur on herself, her phone rings. She left her phone on. And she said, no, I told myself I'm keeping Yom Kippur. I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm not even going to look to see who it is. Phone stops ringing. 10 minutes later, phone rings again. Who could be calling? No, Yom Kippur, I promise I'm keeping Yom Kippur. I'm not going to look. 10 minutes later, it rings again. 10 minutes later, it rings again. This is going crazy. The phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. At 8 o'clock, it stops. Okay, she goes to sleep. Wakes up in the morning. About 9 o'clock in the morning, the phone starts ringing again. 10 minutes. Stops. 10 minutes. Stops. Finally, the phone rang so much, the battery actually died, and that was it. No more ringing the phone, all of Yom Kippur. She keeps the whole Yom Kippur. She's actually proud of herself. She feels very good. She did it. She didn't eat. She didn't turn on the TV. She didn't listen to the phone. Nothing. She says, but I got to see who was calling so much on Yom Kippur. This never happened before. She plugs in her phone right after Yom Kippur. She sees she has like a dozen missed calls or more from a number she doesn't recognize. And there's a message on the machine. She calls the message, hi, Leah. This is Chase Bank. We just wanted to ask you, somebody just tried to break into your account and empty out all of your money. We wanted to ask you if that was you or that was somebody else. In the meantime, we're going to close the account right now, and we're going to freeze all of your funds until we hear from you. So could you please call us back by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning so we know not to freeze your account? Then there's another message. Hi, Leah, this is Chase Bank. We tried calling you numerous times. You didn't answer the phone. So just have to let you know, we froze your account. So she says to her, I'm sorry, that means you'll have to come back to the bank, and it's going to take us a little bit of time to get things started up again. You have to go through the whole process, but that's the only way that we can get your account going again. Okay? She is livid. I keep Yom Kippur. I don't eat. I don't desecrate the day. All because my friend forced me to do it, and this is what I get. I missed the phone call. My account now is frozen. I have to go down to the bank now and open up a new account. This is ridiculous. She calls her friend Rachel. Hi, Rachel says, Leah, hi. How was Yom Kippur? How was Yom Kippur? You know what happened to me? The phone rang 10 times. I didn't answer the phone, and now my account is frozen. I have to go down to the bank. I don't have any money right now. Everything is frozen. Psh, Yom Kippur. She hangs up the phone. And Rachel calls back. She says, I don't want to talk to you. She hangs up the phone. Rachel was devastated. She thought for sure, I'll get my old friend to keep a mitzvah, to keep a day, to keep a yom tov. Everything's going to work out the right way. And what ends up happening? It all turns around backwards. This was Yom Kippur of this year. On Moitzi Simchas Torah of this year, which means Saturday night of, for us, was Sunday Sunday night for us, Rachel gets a call from her friend Leah. And she says, Rachel, Yom Kippur saved my life. She said, you know that my friends and I were planning before Yom Kippur. We heard about this big music festival in Israel. And we decided we're going to buy tickets after Yom Kippur, and we're going to fly off to Israel, and we're going to go to the concert. When Yom Kippur was over, all of my money was frozen. Don't ask a question why she didn't use a credit card. It's not part of the story. She doesn't believe in credit card debt. She said, all my friends ordered tickets, and they're going to Eretz Yisrael, and I could not buy myself a ticket to go. My friends were all at the music concert on Simchas Torah, and I was stuck here in New York. Yom Kippur saved my life. Now I understand why Hashem did what he did. When a person is stuck in a situation where there is, we'll call it for our purposes, the anti-Semitism of the world. When a person is stuck in a situation where they are backs against the wall and there is nowhere to turn, they begin to realize there is only one place that we can turn. And that is to the Ribbono Shel Olam, and that is to his Torah, and that is to his mitzvahs. And the fact that there is an Esav that Sonias Yaakov, there was a Lavan that was Sonias Yaakov, there's an Amalek that hates Yaakov, there's a Yishmael that hates Yaakov, there's all nations that hate Yaakov Avinu, that hate Klal Yisrael. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of reminding us constantly, don't forget who you really are. Don't forget which nation you actually belong to. Don't forget the koyach, the power that is there inside of your neshama, inside of your soul, and how it could soar and elevate itself. And when a person begins to think like that, and they begin to look like that, so just as Yaakov, he made his neck, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu made his neck into marble stone, we will make ourselves strong as well during this time. We will continue to live up to our duty and our mission that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks from each and every one of us, and that is to be a Yaakov. We are Bnei Yaakov. We're not known in history as Bnei Avraham Avinu. We're not known as Bnei Yitzchak. We're known as Bnei Yaakov. Yaakov is the one who fought the most against his enemies. His father-in-law was Lavan. His brother was Esav. And as Yaakov Avinu himself said, I lived with my father-in-law Lavan for 20 years. I kept every single mitzvah. I didn't learn a thing from him. My brother Esav wanted to kill me. In the end, his racham of his mercy overcame him, and he hugged me and he kissed me. Maybe he broke his teeth. But I was able to dupe him and steal the birthright and get the brachas as well. And Esav could not conquer me either. So to be a member of Bnei Yaakov, Bnei Yisrael, means that we have the internal strength and we have the power and the ability to always rise up against our enemies and not let the enemies rise up against us. And if we do that, then Be'ez Hashem, we're living in these very monumental times right now. With ceasefire, no ceasefire, again the war is going to start. Whatever is going to be, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that runs the world. But one thing for sure we know that he wants, and that he wants Klal Yisrael to be strong during this time. Strong like we see as Hanukkah is around the corner. The Maccabees were not strong because they had big muscles. They actually had no muscles. They were little puny Kohanim who never spent one single minute in Gold's Gym. They didn't even know what a weight looked like or a bench press was all about. Nothing. They didn't even do Pilates. You know, when I moved to LA, I kept driving past these stores so many years ago, and it kept saying, pilates. I asked my mother once, what are pilates? She said, that's Pilates, my dear son. You don't know what Pilates are? No, coming from from Baltimore at the time, we didn't know what Pilates were. Anyway, they didn't know what Pilates either. Yoga, nothing. They knew nothing. They knew Torah. They knew mitzvahs. They knew Yiras Shamayim, the fear of Hashem. They knew to be honest. They knew to be sincere. They knew Kedusha. And with all of that, and withholding their pride for being Klal Yisrael, they won the battle over the army of Yavan. So Am Yetz Hashem, as we continue to fight the battles out there in Gaza, and we fight the battles over here in America, all of our family and friends in Eretz Yisrael, they feel bad for us. They feel very safe over there in Yerushalayim, and they see all the Americans going, wow, I have to take my mezuzah down. I can't even be safe over here. I mean, you don't have to take your mezuzah down. You shouldn't take your mezuzah down, but that's what people are thinking. And therefore, they're like calling us, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. They have missiles flying over their head. There's tanks in the streets. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. Am Yetz Hashem, we're all going to be okay. And we're all going to be stronger. And we're all going to be better. And there's going to be a much bigger dedication personally, on our personal levels, to Yiddishkeit, to mitzvahs, to Torah. And as the world of Klal Yisrael is slowly doing tshuva and coming back to Hashem, we should all be zeichet to remember. It's true that Esav does not like Yaakov Avinu, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. As we know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does love us. Hashem never disregards us. He never throws us away. He's defended us in every single generation. He will continue to defend us in this generation as long as we continue to defend Hashem and His Torah. In Yetz Hashem, we should be zeichet to see the miracles of this time of the year, the miracles of Chanukah, the miracles of the battle, the miracles of Klal Yisrael, that as we continue to exist for thousands of years, will continue to exist for thousands of years more, and should bring us to the ultimate existence and the ultimate joy that we're looking for, and that's the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mheira v'yameinu. Pleasure. Have a good night, everyone.
So it's seeing the antenna once we're inside here. You got to ask the guy, how do we get it to see the antenna? Because I think you're right. I think it's at the bottom itself, or at least put up
From
something.
inside it works good.
From outside, yeah, I shot it from the door here and opened right up.
Okay, let's see what we can do then. Maybe we can add an antenna to the.
Maybe just put some up higher.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
What's going on?
Very sorry I came in
No.
late. I was actually across the street as another shiur, and then
Yeah, I heard.
told me that you're giving a shiur now. I said, oh wow, I should make it. Every Wednesday night you
Yeah.
Oh, great.
How you doing?
Yeah, I was
You sticking around, or you still going to
yeah, well, I was actually in New Jersey a couple weeks ago.
I saw Rabbi Brandon.
Yeah, Rabbi Brander, we were there. We went to the rally the first week.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you over there.
Yeah, so that was good. So I checked out the Torah Links program. It's good, but I need to finish up some business here before I can go there and commit there. So we'll see. Hopefully, in a month or two, I'll be able to check it out. And that's kind of the plan for now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now, I'm like here next.
Okay. If you want to come for Shabbos anyway, let us know, please.
Yeah, hopefully. I think this Shabbat I'm going to be actually in Pico.
Okay.
I'm going to, Rav Stern.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be by him.
Okay, fine.
And
So
then,
let us know. We're
Yeah,
here.
maybe we'll talk.
Okay,
Rob, I
very
really
good.
appreciate it. Amazing shiur.
Thank you. Really good to see you. Yeah, Bez Hashem.
I want to share something with you.
Yes, please.
I obviously grew up in Iran.
Yes.
I remember distinctly one of the examples is I was maybe 9 when my father asked me to go buy some apples or something. I wasn't wearing a kippah. My name is Hamid. I was going looking, and this was a new neighborhood. I went to the apple, and the guy recognized I was Jewish. And they considered this as tameh. Not clean. He said, boy, don't touch them. Tell me which ones you want.
Wow.
And I'll put it in the bag.
Wow. Wow.
That was probably the best thing that they did at the time. This is why they made sure we knew as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, that I was different from the rest of
Exactly.
That's the problem with this country. Everybody thinks everybody's friend.
That's right.
You don't have any friends.
Right. Right. Well, that's a good story. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, man. Yes.
Because that was what I read earlier. Today I had two questions, and one of them was exactly the question. You know, when we went to the oil,
Yes.
you heard of the Igro Skoda?
Yes.
You tried it ever?
No.
Yeah,
Did you do it?
yeah, well, we heard about it.
Some trouble.
I'm in trouble. Never trouble.
Troublemaker for this.
I'm a troublemaker. No.
You have a minute after you're done with them?
I have to go pray right now, but
Oh.
maybe
After
I'll
you
wait.
pray, after you
Okay. You doesn't know already? Do you want to walk with me? I'm going to walk over to the Balinese.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Anyhow, my question, I know you're going to. I'll tell you that story another time. It was amazing stuff, but it just pretty much was like little spooky stuff.
Really?
But anyhow, the other question I had was.
What? No, I think he's in another house on the street. No, he's not here. Just that they give the wrong address. He's somewhere, I don't know whose house, maybe Haddad maybe? Is that where he is? Is that where he is? I'm not sure.
If you knock on every house, you're going to find.
Wherever you see the cars. Yeah, no, so I don't, it's not here.
That was one of the questions, the shield.
5205. Mr. Sagian. 5205.
You guys were supposed to bring the donut.
5205.
5205
5205. No, this is 5180. Whatever you want.
Wow, circus? Yeah. Anyhow, okay.
How you doing?
Oh, Target. Yeah, whatever. Exercise, no?
Yeah, good idea.
What's going on?